Alright, Shalom. I'd like to start off saying Ka Halayim La Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Harakak Wadash Ma'amath. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone, and my elder Herawan as well. Salutations to the argument of the pushing the truth, to sincerity and truth, and peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Alright, I'm Kanaks by Yasher Allah from the Lions of the Yasher Allah camp. And this is another Lions Den news and prophecy. This one is dealing with the de-dollarization. What's going to bring forth the RFID chip, which is the MOTB, Charagma, Revelations 13 and 16. And ultimately going to be the downfall of America, because America's already losing its hegemony in the earth. And now and for them to lose their economical status is going to be bye-bye America, the United States. All right. And the title of the article is, what is de-dollarization? Here's everything you need to know about rival countries' efforts to dethrone the greenback. All right. The greenback is the petrodollar. All right. The dollar is the form of currency that's being forced to be used in economical world trade. All right. Petrodollar, the greenback, the U.S. dollar. All right. It said the U.S. dollar has dominated global trade and been the leading reserve currency for nearly 80 years. But rival countries including China and Russia, are trying to change that. Here's everything you need to know about anti-dollar movement and whether the buck is at risk. All right. All right, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying to serve this purpose for the hopeful elect, the ones that truly believe in the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. So basically what this article is going into is simply put like this: the buck stops here. No pun intended. Yes, it was. All right. So basically it says, for nearly 80 years, the United States, the U.S. dollar has dominated international reserves and served as the main currency used in global trade. But growing list of countries, including Brazil, China, and Russia, who are those? Oh, the BRICS nations, are trying to unseat the greenback. Here's everything you need to know about de-dollarization. What is de-dollarization? All right. The greenback is the global economy's dominant reserve, meaning it's the dominant in the International Monetary Fund. It's a dominant currency in the SDRs, right? So you have a basket of currencies, right? And then within those baskets of currencies, you have whichever currency is ping the highest, or you're just gonna say the dollar. These other countries have to buy dollars, right, in order to utilize trade. All right, it says, meaning that it's the main currency held by the world's central banks, right? All right, it says the Bretton Woods Agreement at the end of World War II established the buck as the primary currency of international trade, which is why future contracts for commodities like crude oil and natural gas are almost always priced in dollars. That's a massive source of economic power for the United States, and that's where the source of all their power comes. Well, also in the military, being backed by NATO also, but really their power came from the dollar, man. It says, for example, the greenback dominance meant Washington was able to freeze half of Russia's foreign currency reserve and ban the biggest banks from the SWIFT international payments system after Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine in 2022, February. De-dollarization is the movement to reduce the other countries' reliance on the dollar, often with the goal of undermining the United States. All right. So now, with that de-dollarization, these other nations are going to strip America of everything, of every single thing, man. It says, how are other countries trying to unseat the dollar? Rival countries, China and Russia, are spearheading the effort to wean the world off the buck. The buck stops here. It says China called for suppliers for suppliers in the Middle East to accept its own currency rather than the dollar. All right, so that's the so that would be a bilateral deal instead of a trilateral. Instead of you having these two nations that want to do deals together, right? Instead of them having to go through America, they're Xing out America, and they're just doing deals between each other. So they don't need that third party anymore. All right, they don't need the middleman. They just can do it on their own without using the dollar. All right. It says China called for suppliers in the Middle East to accept its own currency rather than the dollar in oil trade in December, with Xi Jinping's trip to Saudi Arabia signaling the birth of the petro yuan, according to the Credit Suisse analyst Zoltan Pozsar. Meanwhile, Russia has stepped up its de-dollarization efforts over the past year, with Putin signing an executive order on March 2022 that forbid unfriendly countries from settling natural gas contracts in any currency other than the ruble. All right. Beijing and Moscow have also repeatedly pledged, alongside other members of the BRICS group's countries, to launch a new reserve currency they hope could unseat the dollar and an international reserve. All right. So now, that's all these countries stripping America of everything. All right. And everything's going to move to a digital form. But these other nations, like now the yuan and the ruble are backed by oil. But the dollar is backed by de facto. And it has nothing to stabilize itself on. All right. It says, should the U.S. be worried? There's some evidence that the world is slowly weaning itself off the dollar, with the greenback's weight in foreign exchange reserve falling from 71% to 60% since the turn of the century, according to International Monetary Fund. All right, that's the IMF. All right, it says, more recently, Brazil announced the Chinese yuan had replaced the euro as second largest currency in the foreign reserves on March 31st, stoking fears that the dollar's reserve status could be under threat. But despite China's de-dollar, and China is the biggest debt holder of American debt. They hold the most dollars. They're going to send them bitches back. All right, it says, but despite de-dollarization push, China's de-dollarization push, the yuan still accounts for just 2.7% of all foreign exchange reserves, according to the IMF. And analysts believe it is unlikely that a rival currency will unseat the buck anytime soon. Not true. Not true. Because the BRICS nation is going to make that. They're going to make sure that happens. All right? Because they hold all the power. All these nations conforming together, going against those sanctions aren't going to work. None of the old tricks that America used to bring forth is going to work anymore. All right? It says Goldman Sachs said in a research note published Tuesday that the yuan, which is pegged to the dollar and tightly managed by a government that has a frayed relationship with much of the West, will always struggle to clear the high hurdles to attain the top status of the global transaction currency. There's a lot of interior and reserve currency status. A team of strategists led by Kamasakya Trivedi said so far and likely for a long time to come, attempts to de-dollarize remain constraint. All right. So now, that's just hypothetical rhetoric and bull crap at the end, because these nations are forming alliances together to build an economical foundation the way they don't have to use the central banks or the dollar. All right. What's going to happen with that? That's going to strip America bare, and America is not going to be able to fight because it's not going to have enough. Like what did Tupac say? They told me to get my money up to go to war. I got my money up. Now I'm ready for war. All right. So America's money is going to be down, and they're not going to be able to sustain war. Even though they're still going to try to fight, they have to go to war. They're going to use war to try to keep the dollar afloat, and then they're going to revert the dollar to a digital dollar. That's why from the CBDC, right? So it's going to be pegged by a digital dollar, and they're going to force it on the people. What's going to implement, what's going to bring forth the RFID chip, which is the MOTB, man. All right. So this is, and we're witnessing our captivity being turned back right before our eyes. Thus saith Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. All right, I want to get a couple scriptures real quick and close it out. This is Isaiah 47:1. It says, "Come sit down in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne. O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." And what made them tender and delicate? That whole American dream. How did they push forth that American dream? Do through the dollar, man. So the dollar is what they use to create that whole barrage of, and to oppress the nations, man, and oppress the American people, the citizens of the United States. It says, "Take the millstones, grind mill, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man." Right. So what's happening is, that's Yahweh Shai saying he's not going to meet up with America, shaking hands, trying to negotiate deals, man. He's going to make all these countries economically strip America bare. Strip America bare of everything, man. And America won't be able to survive from that. And after that, they're going to burn her with fire. This is James chapter 5, verse 1. It says, "Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you." Right. Because even though they're going to try to peg the dollar through a digital form of currency, right, through this new system that they're going to use, that's going to be, an algorithm or digital base, which is going to implement the RFID, MOTB, Charagma, because the old way was the old world order, and they're trying to implement the new world order, but America's going to be weeping and howling for the miseries that shall come upon this place, all right? Because they're not going to lose. They're already losing their hegemony in the earth, but then next they're going to lose their economical status. All right. It says, "Your riches are corrupt, and your garments are moth-eaten." Right. There's holes all in their garments in this system. All right. The money is funny money. It's backed by de facto. It's not worth anything, and it's a debt note, and it was used to deceive the nation. All right. It says, verse 3 again. It says, "Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them." No. Verse 2 again, it says, "Your riches are corrupt, and your garment is moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you," right? "And shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped up treasures together for the last days," right? So all the treasures that they got and the resources that they took out of the earth with the dollar, right? And all that funny money they got is going to be a witness against them, man. To let everybody know that they've been ruling the earth through wickedness, and that wickedness that they were using was the dollar. Verse 4, it says, "Behold, the hire of the laborers which have reaped down your fields, which you have kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them have reaped and entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth," man. So, right. So, first of all, this whole system that's set up is a debt-based sweat equity system, and it's based upon fractional reserve currency. So what it is a form of slavery where they enslave the people and give them $1 as a form of payment, but that's not a form of payment, it's a form of debt. Right? You're supposed to be able to write off everything. You're supposed to be able to buy a house, do whatever you want to, based off your signature. That's how the Rothschilds do it. They get anything they want based upon their signature, man. Their signature becomes their form of currency. But they give the poor people a debt note, which is a form of slavery. So you see all these rappers and everything holding all that stacks of money, that's stacks of debt. Because guess what? They play with that money. As soon as that dollar crashes, they ain't going to have nothing. Right? These people are going to be out here sick, man. Having all this money in the bank, and all these people with the 401ks. The 401ks, your retirement is based upon the stock market. So as soon as that stock market starts to plummet, so does your retirement fund. So does your life savings. All right? So to sit there and have money in the bank is one of the worst things to do. All right, especially the American dollar. Real money is gold and silver, man. All right, so the dollar is not, and it's not backed by gold, and that happened in 1978 with the Nixon shock when he took away the gold standard and kept the people's and they kept the people's gold. All right, but through the OPEC deal, right? They were the Bretton Woods Agreement and the OPEC deal. The dollar was sourced as the main form of currency in economic trade. But now these other countries want to either use their own form of currency or gold and silver for trade, which America doesn't have. That's why every time somebody tries to say that they don't want to use the dollar in trade, right? When they don't want to use the dollar in trade, that's why America sends troops there to eliminate. They become a target, and America sends troops there or special forces there to eliminate the target and place a puppet master and reform the regime and put a puppet, somebody that they control, in place of of the defiant order of the person that was there before. All right, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein. These are two individuals that said they wanted to use other currencies other than the dollar or gold and silver to trade oil and other resources, man. So, all this is being done by Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man. Yahweh Shem Yahushai is putting a stop to this place and a stop to the wickedness of Babylon the Great, which is America, man. All right, and like how the last scripture said, and the cries of them have reached them to the. In fact, let me get it again. This is James chapter 5, verse 4. It says, "Behold, the hirer of the laborers which have reaped down your fields, which ye have kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them have reaped and entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth." When the Lord of Sabaoth means the Lord of armies, man. And that's Yahweh Shem Yahushai, was bringing this destruction to America. All right, so there you have it. The de-dollarization of the dollar being brought forth by these other countries, really by the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man. All right, Lord willing, this lesson to edify and serve His purpose with that. Like Sekah Halayim, La Yahweh, by Shem Yahushai, by Shem Harakak Vadash from my mouth. Double honors to the elder apostles, great millstone, and my elder Herawan as well. Salutations to the Archon that are pushing the truth, the sincerity, and truth. And peace and blessings to the men, women, and children that believe in the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Shalom.